maybe tried to sell on their own, not having a great deal of success. And if I'm completely honest, pretty much all of them I've made myself at some time when selling a cafe over the years where I've been selling my own businesses. So hopefully by knowing what these mistakes are, you can find a way to plan around and make sure that you don't make any of those mistakes yourself. So let's jump straight in. So the 6 common mistakes that you see with people, generally speaking, the first one is a lack of planning. So not having those conversations early on with the accountant and the solicitor. So from the solicitor side, you naturally want to be talking about things about, in particular, the lease. So how much time is left? What's the assignment clause? What are the costs likely to be involved in that transaction? So really to get a good understanding of that. So, if you're passing it on to a broker, you know that information, or if you're dealing with the sale, you can answer those questions. And if there is a problem with the lease in the early stages, you can start to get that fixed up. So those fixes generally take quite a long time. So a good idea probably to make that meeting with your solicitor the very first one. Now, when talking to your accountant, you want to make sure that you're taking into account things like your tax situation, and also get a very good idea of what your accountant feels the business is worth as well. So whilst those valuations are not always accurate because they may not have a good idea of what the current market's doing, it's a good idea to look at that and to ask your accountant's opinion of the sale price, because when a buyer is doing due diligence, they're going to be asking their accountant for some advice as well. So asking your accountant is going to give you a good idea of what an accountant might value the business at. So make sure that your accountant understands what your plans are for the future. So it's important they understand what you're thinking about doing next. So are you looking at buying another business? Are you just retiring? Or do you want to release some money and buy a property? Whatever it is, make sure they fully understand what your intentions are and they can give you tax advice around that. And you can be sure yourself that you're going to be selling the business for the right price. So it could be that what you need to achieve from the sale, when you factor in things like fees and taxes, is going to be different to what you think originally. And perhaps you need to do some work at the front end to make sure that the business is actually going to be worth that when it goes onto the market. So those 2 meetings, really important to get those done. Also, if you're using people like bookkeepers or business coaches, make sure that they're understanding what the plans for the business are and take their advice and support on that. These guys are all going to have a good understanding of your business. So it's important that you take some advice from them on your future plans. The next thing is preparation. So preparation is something that people don't tend to do much of when selling a business. There's a bit of a rush to get the business on the market. That decision's been made. You're going to sell. You just want to get it done and get into it, and that's understandable. But you've got to try and think about this in the same way that you would preparing for lunch or setting up in the morning. If you're not going into it ready, then it can be an absolute nightmare. Like I still have bad dreams about one Mother's Day where I wasn't prepped up completely for lunch and got absolutely smashed. Just a complete disaster. The same thing with selling a business. If you don't put the preparation in at the front end, then what's going to happen invariably is you're going to have to find information or do things or jump through hoops for the buyers at the worst possible time. Chances are it's going to be when you're short-staffed and you've got family issues or there's something going on. So one of the biggest bits of advice I can give anyone selling is to put some work in at the front. Get your mise en place done, get prepared so that when you go to the market and you start generating some genuine and serious inquiries, that you're able to deal with them quickly and efficiently. You don't want this to have to find that you're slowing the sale process down. So try and make sure you get all that done. We work with a fair checklist of around 22 items that buyers are likely to ask for. We work through those with our clients. You don't need all of them necessarily. There's probably about 6 or 7 that everybody's going to want. And the other ones, it's a good idea to have in the background. So I'll give you a link shortly where you can, if you'd like, get a copy of that checklist. So I'll give you an idea of the type of things that buyers are looking for. Next is the business price. So you will have noticed if you're thinking about selling, I'm sure you've probably logged on to a few of the websites and had a look at what other things are priced for. Now, it's really important that you don't gauge the pricing of your business on what you see other businesses listed for, because the listed price and the sale price are usually very different. From personal experience, when I'm talking to people, generally the pricing seems to come from very few logical areas. It's more about what the person wants for the business or what they feel it's worth or what they want because that's what they paid for it and that kind of thing. And it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, you can't always get what you want for it. You're going to get what the market will pay you. And that price is determined by a number of factors. There's probably about 7 or 8 different factors. I've got another video actually, which will talk you through that, walk you through those different things that people look at and are going to influence the price of the business. But ultimately, you want to make sure you're going, when you go onto the market, that you're responding and reacting to where the current market is. So if it's a buoyant market, obviously that multiple is going to be higher. If it's a tight market, you've got to make sure like you're going on at the right price. If you're going on in a tight market and you're overpriced, the chances are you're not even going to get any inquiries, let alone get close to selling it. So it's important at this stage, take some advice from professionals, people who are actually in the business of selling businesses like yours and have got probably some data to look at and go back on in relation to similar recent sales for businesses that might be the same sort of size and type as yours. Very important to get that pricing correct. I will give you a link in a couple of minutes where if you want some help with that, I'm more than happy to pick up a call with you and talk you through what those factors are that are going to affect it. It's going to be obviously specific to your business. There's going to be a lot of different things to look at. So if you want some help with that, I'm more than happy to jump on a call and give you some advice on that. Next, the business advertised with not enough or too much information. So this is when you advertise the business, there's a fine line. You want to make sure that you're giving enough information that you generate inquiries. But don't give too much away. Otherwise, there's no reason for people to contact you. And you want to be able to speak to them on the phone or email and engage in that initial conversation to give yourself a chance of actually selling the business, So it's important, put that advert together with some sort of structure that, as I said, you're giving enough to realize that for people to realize that, actually, this might be the kind of opportunity I'm looking for, but don't give away too much so that they don't feel the need to contact you. So again, there's things that we can do to help you with that. If you do need some help, you just need to feel free to reach out, and we'll more than happily send you through a template you can use to create an advert that's going to, as I said, not give away too much, but enough that you're going to generate some inquiries. Next, buyer inquiries aren't qualified properly. So this, most people selling their business, one of the biggest fears is dealing with all the time wasters and tire kickers. And if you don't qualify people early on, this can definitely be a problem. You end up spending time with people who are not really that serious. They'll, if you haven't qualified them early on, you'll end up making appointments that they don't turn up to, or they'll come and see you, and then you get part way down the road with them as far as the sales is concerned, and find out they haven't got any money, So you've got to put some steps in early on to make sure that you're qualifying people and finding out exactly, are they a qualified buyer? Have they got money? Have they had a business previously? Are they likely to stack up for the landlord with regards to the assignment? And all those kind of questions. So an important part of the process, something that we do. We do a lot of this. So probably, I would imagine around 40 to 50% of the initial inquiries we get are ruled out fairly early on. So a pretty high percentage. We get people to take a few steps that are pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If they don't take those steps, then it's my opinion and that they're not that serious. So put some steps in place if you're going to sell on your own to make sure you can qualify those people early on. And finally, one of the biggest mistakes is the negotiation of the sale isn't handled correctly. So, this can range from anything from early on with the first viewing, for example. Had an instance where I talked to somebody who was having trouble selling, and when we broke it down and talked about what he'd spoken about during the viewings, he was actually quite openly telling people about how the business is not doing as well as it used to do, how there's a lot of increased competition in the area, and focused on quite a few negatives as opposed to just the positives and the potential of the business and all the good selling points. So with the people that we work with, we coach people through, before, after, and during those presentations, those viewings, what you should be saying, what you shouldn't be saying, on the things to focus on, and then the things that you can push back just for us to deal with if we're working with you as a client. So negotiation at that stage is very important, and obviously the further you get into it, the more detailed it's going to get. So some people will make an inquiry, they'll push that down the process, and then as it gets in, they'll start trying to drop the price down and negotiate harder and harder. So it's important that you don't get too emotionally involved with this negotiation, and ideally this is where it really you benefit having a professional deal with it, because a professional is detached emotionally from the business. And I know myself from, like some of the businesses I've had for sort of 10 plus years, you get very attached to them, and you take feedback, criticism I do anyway, I take it very personally. So at this stage, it can be very good to have somebody else that's impartial dealing with it, to make sure that you don't get drawn in emotionally, and then, the buyer take advantage of that situation, and you end up dropping the price or giving more away than you'd originally planned to. So obviously the negotiation is something which can be the lengthiest part of the process. It can take some time, and it has to be handled correctly. So really good to get a good understanding before you go into this, if you're going to do it on your own, of what you should and shouldn't be doing. And again, something that we work with our clients, and more than happy to help you out with if it's something that you feel you need some help with. So hopefully that's given you a sort of a very brief run through some of those mistakes, and I certainly hope that that's going to help you potentially avoid some of those mistakes. As I said, I've made a lot of them, if not all of them, myself at some point, and if I can prevent other people from making those mistakes, then I'm pretty happy about that. So if you would like some more information about the system that we use, it's called the 6 Steps to Sale program. It's a program which gives a complete framework that takes cafe owners like yourself all the way from the first thought, even of selling the business, all the way through to settlement. We work very much together. It's a very collaborative process. It's an affordable fixed fee. There's no commission involved. And it's a program that's been developed through my experience of selling my own businesses, both on my own and through a broker. And I've tried to apply all the good things from both of those areas and leave out the things which I felt personally didn't work. So it's a product, I guess, I've developed because I wished it was in the market when I was selling my own businesses, and it wasn't an option then. So feel free to log on to the website. Under services, you'll see a link there that says 6 Steps to Sale. On that page, you'll get more information about the service and the product. And also there is a contact form at the very bottom where you can register for a valuation call, or we can use the time on that call just to discuss a bit more about your business and how we might be able to work together, or certainly give you some guidance about how you might be able to sell your business and make sure it's going on the market at the right price so you can sell for more and in less time. So guys, I hope that's been of some use to you. As I said, feel free to reach out if there's any support or help that you feel you might need. More than happy to have a chat about selling cafes at any time. So if we don't speak, I wish you all the very best with your sale. Thank you.